First of all, I want to welcome everybody this evening for coming to this webinar, our second one. And we're excited that we have Gerry Andros with us today. And I've known Gerry for a long time, and I'm going to introduce him here in a second. And, I just want to go over a couple of housekeeping items with you guys here. And first of all, if you look, you'll see the Q&A icon on the bottom of your screen. And so if you've got a question, we're going to be taking questions during Gerry's entire presentation. And, I know there's at least a couple of hundred that have registered for this webinar. And so it's obvious we won't get to all those questions. We're going to give it about 15 minutes though. And we'll go back to those questions that we didn't get to answer and forward appropriate answers to those to everybody that's registered for the course. So that'll be forthcoming afterwards. And let me, my name is Jim Zazowski, and I'm president and founder of Z1 Career Zone, and I'm excited to be doing this webinar series with you guys. And we have such a great lineup of presenters, really all scheduled all the way out through the end of first quarter next year. So, and I know what they bring to the table. So I think anybody that's on these webinars is going to get something out of this for sure. And now, the one thing that I did want to bring up real quick is I know a lot of you know what our nationwide initiative that we just launched a few weeks ago. And it's called the Career Recovery Sponsorship Program. And basically the mission that we decided as a company as a result of this virus was, we came out with our on-demand program, which is really a complete online option, what we feel is most comprehensive career training program that exists today. And our whole mission was like, okay, how do we get that in the hands of the people who really need it the most? And those are the people that have lost their jobs as a result of this virus. And so I know a lot of you know about it. And in fact, there's quite a few of you that are on this webinar, I know that right now, that have been recipients of this program, and we're really excited about that. But there's a lot of you that have no idea what I'm talking about. So in a second here, we're going to just show you a quick 2-minute video, and the reason for this is that if you're on this and you have lost your job, okay, as a result of this virus, you're definitely going to want to register to get a sponsorship for the career recovery program that we have, right? Because it'll be free of charge to you. And, or perhaps you haven't lost your job, but you know of somebody that has, right? Or a relative or a neighbor or whatever. And after you see this video, I think you're going to be encouraged to send them to our website to be eligible for a sponsorship. And then if perhaps you're fortunate enough, you're working and you're looking for a way to give back, man, this is a great way to do this, to be a sponsor for somebody or two. And for every sponsorship that our sponsors get, we're matching that 1-for-1. So I'm going to show you this quick video, and then I'm going to introduce Gerry to you. And we're excited that you're on this webinar with us. So Gerry, if you wouldn't mind just clicking on that link right there.
My name is Jim Zazowski, president and founder of Z1 Career Zone, a career consulting firm that provides solutions for those individuals who've either lost their jobs or are seeking career change. Now, as you know, since the COVID-19 pandemic struck North America, millions have been negatively impacted, perhaps even you or someone you know. In response, I am excited to announce our nationwide initiative, the COVID-19 Career Recovery Sponsorship Program.
We have asked individuals, corporations, athletes, colleges, and others to come together in partnership with us to provide the most comprehensive online career training program that exists today, absolutely free for those who need it most. If this describes you, we are inviting you to become eligible to receive a fully sponsored career recovery program. Just go to our website, z1careerzone.com, and register here. Complete this form and you will be placed in our pool of potential sponsorship recipients. Those selected will be on a first-come, first-served basis by state. If you want to get started immediately and you don't need a sponsor, click here to receive a 50% discount given to those who have lost their jobs as a result of this virus. Lastly, and very important, if there are any individuals you know who have lost their jobs, family, friends, neighbors, co-workers, please encourage them to visit our website as well and register to become eligible to receive a full sponsorship from our Career Recovery Program.
Our promise to you is that we will do everything that we can to help you get back on the road to career recovery. If you need additional information, please visit our website at z1careerzone.com.
Okay, well, thanks for watching that. I really appreciate that. And I got to tell you, this last 2 weeks for me have been amazing because to see the people and even companies step up to sponsor people who have lost their jobs and now they're taking the program and they're learning a ton of stuff and even perhaps learning about some industries that are hiring right now that they'd be qualified for. It's been awesome, to say the least. And the appreciation from the people who receive it has been through the roof. So thanks for watching that. The last thing that I do want to say is we just start getting requests from parents asking about our on-demand program for their sons and daughters that are graduating seniors in college. And as you can imagine, very few of them are graduating with jobs in hand, right? And so we're also giving 50% off for those that are graduating seniors right now. So if you know of anybody who is interested in that, just email us at info@z1careerzone.com and we'll be happy to get in touch with them, explain to them that. So now, last but not least, I want to introduce Gerry Andros to you. And I've known Gerry for a long time, and you're going to really enjoy hearing him today. There's no doubt. And I got a lot of respect for Gerry and what he's done in his career, and all those things, and all that's great. But to be honest with you, I think more importantly, and I've watched this with Gerry over the years. It's his desire and his willingness to put other people first before himself. And I think him volunteering as our other presenters to be able to offer these webinars free of charge to anybody out there to do our little piece and hopefully giving back and helping people is just one little snippet of that. But it was interesting. I was thinking, like, how can I introduce Gerry? And so what I actually did is I went to his LinkedIn profile, right? And I started looking at his recommendations there, and I was smiling because I guess I wrote you a recommendation a while ago, Gerry, but there were a bunch of them. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to share, for my introduction to Gerry, some of the words that were written by the people that I think describe Gerry perfectly. So listen to this. Respected, visionary, embraces, inspirational, innovative, professional, forward-thinking, collaborator, dynamic, intelligent, passionate, mentor, effective, collegial, gracious, positive, enthusiastic, committed, engaged, energetic, smart, creative, integrity, and authenticity. And I'll tell you, as I was reading that in these recommendations, it's unbelievable. The other thing that I noticed, there was these two words that were in every one of them. And the two words were this, and sometimes multiple times, leader and leadership. And I think that tells you everything you need to know about Gerry Andros. And and Gerry, it's my honor to be able to introduce you, my good friend here, and have you do the presenting. So you can take it from here, Gerry.
I promise you, I have never gotten an introduction like that. That is amazing. Wow. I don't know who you were talking about. I'm kidding, of course. So thank you. That is just, and the fact that I don't think I've read a lot of those positive things about me. And I pride myself in telling the team here that a lot about LinkedIn. I think I need to read my own profile for a while, but that's unbelievable. Even the fact that my picture is here with it saying industry expert is amazing to me, at the end of the day, because I can tell you, I don't wake up in the day thinking of myself in that way at all. I'm just a guy who's had success, a guy who's had failures, and a guy who's just trying to make the best of things. And so it's been a wonderful, fun journey. And I'm looking forward to having this opportunity to be able to speak to everybody, at least about my journey. And if it helps someone, man, that would just be awesome for me. And I hope it'll be awesome for everybody else. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about my background and a little bit more about me. I think the first bullet point you see here is that I am the quintessential, I'm the salesperson at the core. I mean, I'm one of the guys that loves the profession. I'm proud of the profession. I started my career selling copiers for Pitney Bowes. So my first job and introduction to selling was going to 50 to 100 places a day and being told to go away. And learning how to not be affected by that and to just keep driving and trying to take whatever opportunities were there to make the most of it, and meeting a ton of people. I knew I loved meeting people, which I was able to do because before that I was in a little produce market for most of the rest of my career, and I didn't like that as much. So I was really blessed to be called a salesman. I am proud of that title. I was also very fortunate to work with some great companies. And although selling copiers was great, I was really wanting to do more and to have more of an impact in the world. And I was fortunate to join a fantastic diagnostic company, Abbott Laboratories. And there are a lot of people, I think, that are maybe even on this call from those relationships that I had, and many mentors from that company that to this day have meant a lot. One of them is the co-host here. So it has just been a fantastic group to be a part of. And then of course, I got engaged in life sciences after that. So it was really, it's been a fun journey because of the companies I've been with. And obviously becoming a sales leader took the focus away from me and carrying a sales bag to others. And some may or may not know this, I majored in religion. I often make the joke, I pray about science all the time now that I'm in a science world. But truly being a sales leader was more to the roots of what, my mother's dream for me, which was to be a Greek Orthodox priest. That didn't quite work out. But I've got to be a sales leader and to guide. And for 20 years, actually, after I wrote this, I realized my dad put me to work about 10 years before that, maybe 30 years. I had never thought about employment. I always was going to have a job. I was a driver. I worked hard, got great work ethic. I always had a job, and I threw myself into it and always had success. So, never thought about it, but here it was. The next bullet point, I was downsized. And in one day, my circumstance completely changed. I remember being downsized, calling my wife, telling her that I was downsized, and she told me to stop joking. It's not April Fool's Day. And I said, no, honey, I'm not joking. I definitely got let go today. And I tell you, it was tough. I had no plan. I had no idea what to do. I had never been in that situation. I thought I would never be in that situation. Eventually, after a very long period of time and through lots of trials and tribulations, I got reemployed. And I didn't forget the fact that I was downsized, so I wasn't surprised that maybe I would get downsized again, but I had a great run for 8 years. And then again, I was downsized. And, there was a big difference though. I had a really enjoyable time during that second time around because I had a plan. The company did provide outplacement services, which I took fully advantage of. And what I'm planning to do today is hopefully give you a little bit about what that journey was for me and the plans that I did for myself and to help me get back into the game. And I hope it'll help some of you all as well.
Yeah. Hey, Gerry, can you touch a little bit more on, kind of the circumstances that led to you having to start a new career, at least initially? What were the circumstances behind that?
Well, I mean, the circumstances were that the company got bought out about a year or so before that. And that, the company was changing, but, I'd been there about 10 years and I felt fairly secure. And so, It just at one point, they made a business decision to move on and to eliminate the sales aspect. I was the sales leader. So there I was downsized. I was extremely depressed about this. I felt hopeless. I was sulking. I felt that I was the victim for what had happened and that it wasn't fair that it happened. And I didn't think it was the right decision. I had difficulty really functioning for a few months and I wasn't productive. And my plan at that time was pretty straightforward. I was just gonna kind of brush up my resume and make a bunch of calls to friends. And that didn't really work really well for me. It took a while for me to get reemployed. So in summary, or in short, I had just the absolute wrong perspective about employment, what I needed to do, and how to get back into the game.
Okay, so what would you say would be like kind of the criteria to have the right perspective, which it seemed like you had the second time around, right?
Yeah, I did. I, you know, again, I knew that it happened to me before, so I wasn't shocked that it could happen again. But the training that I was provided got me to think of it. You know, the first beginning, though, of a difference really started, Jim, when I called you. You were a recruiter at the time, and I said, Jim, I'm out of work. Just find me another job just like it. And you said, wait a minute here, Art. You're like at the finish line. The first question is, you know, have you thought about what you want to be when you grow up? Have you thought about what you do well or what you don't do well? I mean, do you have to do the same thing? Is there something else that you want to do? To me, that was just mind-boggling. I mean, I'm supposed to think about me. I mean, I have a family. I'm supposed to provide. I'm just supposed to get another job. I know who I am. And so that was the beginning. Of course, there was a lot of training and other things that I did through then. So what I you know was important as I went through this process to really figure out what I wanted. Like I said, what were the values and the principles of the company I would join? Are the people the right people for me? You know, I think that was something I never even thought about first time around. And of course, I wanted to work for a healthy company. I didn't want to be in this position. I was fortunate. I was 8 years between this first time and second time, but I didn't want to be here every year or every few years. So how the health of the company was pretty important to me. And if it's okay, Jim, what I'll do now is I'll go through a couple of the things that I did during that time, talk a bit about the situation, at least in my experience.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And, you know, I mean, here we are. I mean, it's kind of like interesting that, you know, that we are in a situation very similar. When I was downside, I was at a higher level position, and then I was told it would be a great amount of time before I would get a job, you know, because there were a lot of people out there that weren't working. And so employment was low at that. I mean, unemployment was high. Getting employed was difficult. I was, again, you know, stressed out. I mean, you get stressed out during these situations, much less the second time around because I was busy. I was training myself. But I think it's key, as I said in these times, is to figure out what it is you should be doing, how to navigate, you know, during these times. And having a plan, to me, is second to none important. You can't just go ahead and put a resume together like I did the first time and make a bunch of calls and wait for something to happen, because it takes a while for it to happen, especially when, look at with the COVID situation, a lot of people are not, you know, employed right now. So you got to be able to be more prepared. You know, what are the tools that you need? And, you know, Z1 Career Zone has tools, by the way. They're fantastic. So Jim talked about signing up. If you're in this position, please sign up. You know, and how do you get opportunities, you know, for employment, and what do you do to prepare yourself for every time you get to talk to someone about that right job so that you're going to win it? I mean, those are the keys. Well, obviously, for me, I learned it was all about the mental game, first time versus second time. The second time, you know, the first time I was just, my ego was devastated. I was in disbelief. You know, I was afraid. You know, I didn't think, I didn't know what to do. So that created, and I do believe what's on the slide here. I do believe fear is one of the biggest liars out there. So I think, again, your perspective, your outlook is essential. Can you really get into a state of mind where you're saying it's going to be better than it was before, and really believe it? Because if you really believe it, the people you're going to be talking to about your next step, they're going to believe it too. And do you know that it will be better for you this time around? This is going to be an opportunity. This thing, thank God it happened to me, because now I could do something that's really going to make me valuable and make me happier and make a bigger impact. And of course, being a victim just doesn't work. I mean, it's the last thing you want to do. So again, I call these the Zazowski questions. What do you want to do when you grow up? What do you want to be? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? It's one thing to ask those questions. It's quite a different thing to try to journal the answers. And I highly recommend that you take journaling on so that you can contemplate it. I would write things down and they would change from day to day. And by the way, when I went through that training, that's one of the things I said was important. This is a time that I needed to become a writer. So I was writing a lot of things, and I was writing about what was my story before. So I just sat and wrote like a few pages of everything I did and what I thought was important in it. And then I obviously trimmed it down. And then I had to write, what was the new story, and that was hard. I mean, I stared at the paper for a while. I'm not sure what the new story is. But I'd go to these different courses and they would tell you, have you thought about this or that, or different opportunities? And my mind was thinking all the time. So that kind of got me going. It put me in a great state of mind compared to time number one. So in essence, I guess what I'm saying here is that many of you may be in sales and marketing. Maybe you understand what it is to sell a product or market a product, but you're the product now. You have to market yourself. You have to prepare yourself for what it is that you want. You have to have it all laid out and be organized, and you got to be different than other people in that process. You got to find the right thing where it's a win for your employer and it's a win for you. So I'm going to share with you, the first thing I learned in the courses I took was about the marketing plan and how to organize a marketing plan. I'm more, like I said, a sales guy than a marketing guy. So I needed a little help in this area. And they talked a little bit about trying to give yourself a couple of tracks that you would pursue and make them a little bit different so you have more options. So my first track was probably the more traditional track of what I had done. A commercial leader working for either a large or a small or a mid-sized company, some of the traditional roles that I have done. I like leading people, but I'd be okay if I did a job, where I was an individual contributor. So I kind of organized myself. That's the first track. The second track, though, was completely entrepreneurial. It was primarily I joined a franchise organization so that I had opportunities to look and see if I wanted to invest in franchising or would I potentially partner with somebody. And to me, that was like, it was some excitement there because it'd be a whole bunch of new skills, something I had not done before. I was a little nervous about not getting a regular paycheck every other Friday. I've really gotten used to that. But nonetheless, there were a couple of tracks. I was taking the advice. I didn't quite understand why I was doing what I was doing, but I pursued it. I was all in on trying to make that work. Well, that led to trying to figure out what are my potential targets. And those targets, I list them all here for me. I'm not going to read them all, but there were just different titles that I was interested in. There were different functions that I read about. And as I was searching and trying to find things to do, I tried to look at this list to remind myself, hey, that kind of fits. It's in this kind of thing that I might, want to do. So this became pretty important. It changed a lot, by the way, as I went through it. As I learned about more things, I said, that's cool. I'm going to put that on my potential preferred function list, Okay. So I learned that a good marketer has to have a positioning statement, and now I needed to have a positioning statement about me. I was told, I have, people that know me know that my patience is of a small degree. And so I thought that this should be done in maybe, an hour or so and I could move on. But I was told this should take days. I didn't understand that. So I had good friends that I would show the positioning statement. They kept sending me back to go and work on it. But primarily, here's the key of what it came down to. The positioning statement starts and ends in the same way. It focuses on what someone who would hire a commercial guy would want. They'd want results, and they'd want a return on their investment. So the beginning and the end, kind of, it's about them. And then the middle of it is about me. I'm innovative. I like innovation. I like people. I'm passionate about people. I'm into sales and marketing. I'm really more into sales, but I didn't say that. But sales and marketing. I like selling products. I like to execute. I like accountability, and I like to show that I'm having success. I missed one of them here, which is a servant leader. And I call that my discussion piece. Basically, I think it's important that you have a brand, and each and every one of you can try to figure out what your brand is. For me, the brand, and I go back to a lot of my religion major studies and, being into people, was I always, when I looked at my leadership style, it was always from the bottom up, trying to lift people up and trying to get them to follow me into places I thought we needed to go as an organization. I was not an autocratic leader. You could say anything to me. And so I thought that defined as servant leadership, I had that on my resume. I had every opportunity I had. There ever was a question I didn't get, is to explain to me what you mean by this servant leader. To be honest, the initial reaction may have not been positive. It may have been like, you're just like to make friends with everybody, and you're not really about the accountability. And I remind them of my positioning statement, of course. But this was really cool, and I was very different. People didn't talk about servant leadership at the time. Obviously, these are all my different skills that I felt that I had, and people have given me feedback about that. A sales guy better understand numbers, and to get results, you need to know the P&L. Obviously, sales leaders usually control culture of their teams, and all leaders do, no matter whether it's sales or anything else. Paying attention to culture is important. And I worked in a big company and a small company, so I thought, man, that would open up a lot more options, a lot of little list of things that I've done. And if you think about it, if someone's hiring you, they probably want something better or something they don't have. So I thought emphasizing being a turnaround specialist would be important in my journey.
That's great.
So, when I look at this, what did I need to prepare from here? Obviously now it's time for the resume. Unlike the first time I said, hey, I just got to put my resume together and I'll just call a few people. Now I can get to the resume. All this work, I haven't even gotten to the resume yet, and more than one, in this case. And again, because of writing, in my resume, there were there were a few moves I made. Well, why did I make those transitions? Why did I exit from those places? I had to write all those down. I had to practice it. I wanted it to be smooth. I wanted it to make sense. I wanted it to sound good. I wanted it to make sense, that it could get me a next job. Obviously, I needed to build a funnel, and I needed to decide, is it a good fit for me or not? And then, of course, social media, which was new to me at the time, I needed to make the most out of social media. So that's kind of what, I had to do in terms of after all these various steps.
Yeah, no, the social media thing, that's a whole nother subject for people our age these days, that's for sure. But, but I think it goes back to talking about how do you brand yourself, right, over multiple platforms. What is it all saying about you, right? Whether it's LinkedIn and all that kind of stuff. So, so Gerry, what was the difference in how you marketed you the second time around versus the first time? So there's obviously a big difference, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely. I was a different person. I completely and totally threw myself into being a better me, and not focusing on the fact that I had a situation where I wasn't employed. I wasn't letting my lack of employment define who I was. And really, it was time, and I was fortunate because there was a program available for me to be able to get better at all the different things that I just showed. All the things I just showed you, I had no idea that's what you did. You know, those are all new things to me. And so, you know, a lot of this, and one of the reasons, you know, Jim and I, yes, we've been friends for a long time, but I can tell you the excitement and the enthusiasm that I have about Z1 Career Zone is the fact that here's a group that's trying to tap into getting people to be more effective, to figure out what they want to do with their careers and to be effective in that process. And I think, you know, just hearing about the sponsorship programs and the amount of opportunities and truly, you know, the vision that Jim has on this and trying to make sure that this now, you know, when the COVID thing came up, this became a completely different company in terms of what was to be done and how to get out there and spread it out. So I think that it's really important, you know, the tools are available, but I have to say the commitment, the desire, the throwing yourself into it. Just because you get trained, if you don't throw yourself into it, not everybody did when I was in my situation. I don't think, you know, they got as much out of it and it didn't necessarily land a job. So I highly recommend that for me, like I did, I threw myself into it and I made sure that, you know, it was my clear focus to be better and to have the right attitude.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, those are, I mean, all critical things. There's no question, especially throwing yourself into it versus not, right? You know, and there's obviously a huge difference there. And I think that's what people are facing right now too, right? You know, a lot of times they're sitting at home, right? What am I going to do? You know, what can I throw myself into and all those kind of things to improve my situation, so to speak, right? Gerry, do you have any other suggestions that you would make based on what you experienced, right, to really have a more effective career search, I guess is what I would say?
Well, again, not new, but again, I'll just remind you, take care of yourself, focus on you, be the best you, you know, win the mental game, right?
Yeah.
And I think, look, I was told, it wasn't COVID, I was told it would be 2 years before I would get a job. Just plan on that. And I didn't think about that. You know, I think if I was in the same situation today with COVID, I would not be focusing on how many people don't have a job. That is not productive to your mental health. What you need to focus on is the fact that you need to get all the skills, and there may be a few jobs that if I happen to know, as a matter of fact, I'm on several different advisory groups and groups that are talking about this. People are hiring right now because they have positions they haven't been able to find people. Employment's been tough. You know, it's been tough in my existing company. I haven't been able to find people. So there are opportunities out there, but they're going to be able to go from the best to the best, and you need to become the best of the best. And so, you know, let me just take a couple of minutes. I've only got a few more slides. And then I think at the end of this, we're going to take questions. You know, in terms of that social media game that we were talking about and the plan for that, you know, it was important. It is important that, like I said, that we differentiate yourselves and that we, you know, and what is it about you that's going to make you different? And I'm going to give you one example of something that I did that I think I was successful in being different at the time. I created through LinkedIn, which was my Bible in terms of looking at things and how to get things done. But I did create a newsletter, and I send this newsletter out once a month. And the purpose of it was to leverage my network and to obviously get more people engaged, involved in my search. I think it was pretty bold. I really was honest about, you know, what I was going through and how difficult it is when you're in this situation, you know, as part of my newsletter. And, you know, you're actively working as a leader. You get lots of calls every day. All of a sudden the phone isn't there. The emails aren't coming. You go from hundreds of emails to 4, you know, unless you do something. And so it was a lot of things like that that I talked about. I talked about how I was looking at life differently. And, you know, so I just didn't want to make it about, hey, help me find a job. And obviously I was really passionate about it. And I'm a true believer, the more passionate you are, the more opportunity you have to get great interest in you, because people can see it. It translates, right? So the last bullet point is my pet peeve. You know, I get these calls probably, you know, a few per month. Hey, if you hear of anything, let me know. You know, I want to tell you, most people don't do a thing. And your results from that is probably really low. So I didn't want in my differentiation newsletter for it to be, hey, if you hear of anything, let me know. So what did I do? Well, here's an example. In March of 2013, I created the Gerry Andros Board of Directors newsletter, which, you know, seems kind of pompous right now, but anyway, it's okay. You know, and I said, well, obviously nobody knew what it was. So I explained it. You know, it's a little bit of me sharing a little bit about my career search. It's about potential companies that I'm going to share and all the tools I'm using. It's about networking. 70% of the jobs come from networking. And you are my team. I know you won't let me down. Thank you very much. Pretty much. This all is in 2 slides, but it was all in 1 page, by the way. Then I did this every month. This is the first one. I talked a little bit about what my current status was and kind of a progress report. And again, I didn't start out and say, oh my God, it's so hard to find a job here. It's unbelievable. I didn't start out talking about the job search in general. I was just amazed at how the spirit of people wanting to help.
Yeah.
You know, because I think people want to hear about the good things that they're seeing when they're in a tough time. Because we're all going to be in a tough time at some point. Many of us are now with COVID. So it was the focus on that positive, I think, that got people to read it. Because after I sent this out, every time I had 10 to 12 opportunities to follow up on. People took an extra step for me. I think a lot of talk about, you know, I talked a lot about my family. I talked a lot about, you know, my relationship with God during this time, you know, what I felt about leadership. I also offered myself to help, not as a consultant. I didn't want any money, but since I had time, if there's anything I could do to help you in your job, whatever, I'm available. So everyone, you know, I did get a couple of those and people were out there. I mean, I had like employees trying to help me get a job. It was really amazing. And a lot of people sent the newsletter to people and people thought that that was impressive in itself. And that got me a lot of the leads. So, you know, I was very vulnerable during this letter. I let people know, you know, what the pain points were in my search. And at that time, no one had done it. And it was really successful for me in terms of my social media strategy, which I didn't know what that was before. So anyway, I'm really at a point where I've shared all the slides that I have. Thank you for this chance to share, you know, my story. My story could be anybody's story, because you don't have to do it the way I did it or whatever, but figure out what it is you need to do to get yourself out there in the best mental place you could be, positive, that, and it'll spread. People will want you. It'll spread faster than COVID. Trust me.
Yeah.
You're going to do great.
That, Gerry, that's awesome. You know, and I think, you know, honestly, telling your story, you've been there, you've been in these shoes before, right? And that's why I think why it's so impactful. One question before I get to a few questions that came in that I've got for you is, how many people were on your board of directors?
Yeah. Well, I sent the letter out to about 800 people. So let's just say I wasn't intimate with.
I'm asking that because I remember the first time I asked you, I thought you were going to say like 10. I thought, you know, 10 or 12 on his board.
I didn't follow the discipline of the size of a board of directors. I didn't think that would serve me well. But there were a lot of them. Yeah, there was a lot.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And, you know, just a couple things before we get to these questions and we'll wrap up is that, you know, 2 things you said. One was, you know, not being a victim, right? And I think that is so important right now. I know it is, because I can tell you guys, I've, you know, in my recruiting firm, all right, you know, I ran into people who got laid off, right? And man, there's 1 of 2 ways you can go, right? You can either go straight down, right? And it's tough to get out of there, right? It really is. Or you can look at it, and I think you even said, look at it as almost like an opportunity, right? For something new, or to be creative and look for ways that you can differentiate yourself from everybody else, right? Surround yourself with people that are going to energize you, instead of wallow with you, right? And as tough as it is, I think that's so critical, that mental part of the game. And then the other thing I just made a mental note at, and us old people will know Zig Ziglar, right? And I talk about this quote 1,000 times, and it's so true. And he always said in every one of his books, and all this motivational speaker, he said, you get everything you ever wanted in life if you'll just help enough people get what they want out of life, right? And I could even see that in parts of your letter, you were even doing that. And you're in a situation right now, you want to lift yourself up, go and help other people do so. Even if it's just a call to people that you haven't talked to, how are you doing? And it starts to change you and your whole outlook and everything else. And this was terrific. This was great. And Gerry, I know you've done something similar for me, several years ago. But I think now how appropriate this is for the times we're in right now. Whether you've lost a job or not, there's things to take away from this thing for your future. So, man, I thank you for doing this, and I'm going to bug you with some questions that came in here, and I'm just going to, take the next 10 minutes or so, Gerry, to read these off. And it says, Gerry, you mentioned the people equation and finding the right fit for yourself with the right company, things like value, principle alignment, right? How is the best way to figure that out as quickly as possible so that you do not invest all this time with an opportunity only to find out that you are not the right fit because of those things? That's a really good question.
Yeah, it is a good question. Yeah. So, what's the best way to figure out your skills and then evaluate other companies? Well, for me, it was really just talking to people that knew me, and asking them for their honest feedback, what they felt in their opinion, looking at me, having worked with me, if they were colleagues, what am I good at? What do you think I'm good at? And what are the things that, in your experience, you're not going to hurt my feelings, I'm not good at? And do you have any ideas on So I did a lot of surveying and to help formulate, and journaling the answers and comparing notes to come up with that story. And I think a lot of it is to stay away. I did a lot of interviews with companies that I knew I wouldn't be good at doing. And so I ended up using those companies. I kept interviewing with them just to get my interviewing skills good, because I knew I wouldn't be good for the job, and I knew I didn't want the job. So, it's kind of like there was this whole control thing that happened when you looked at knowing what it is that you wanted, you would be best at. But yeah. There are people around you know your skills, and those that there's people you value, get that information.
Yeah, no, that's great. Here's one. This is a good question here. What is a funnel? ? Slide 13.
What is a funnel? A funnel is, sales guys, we think everybody
knows the same thing, right? You're talking different language.
But basically, when you are looking for roles and you're going to look for different things that are listed, you're going to list out and write down all those different opportunities you're working on. And you might be in different phases of interviewing for those companies. We would consider that your recruitment or placement funnel. When you're in sales, when you're looking to sell something, the customers you're going to sell to are your sales funnel. So very similarly, it's the list of people and the prospects that you have for the endeavor you're going after. Okay. Great question. I would have never thought of that one. So that's good. I assumed that one. That was bad.
Yeah. Now here's another good one here. What are the key sales skills do you recommend people learn and practice when selling themselves? Because literally, whether you're in sales or not, you have to learn how to sell yourself. You just have to. So is there anything you recommend practicing?
Well, again, I think when you prepare your resume, you need to write through talking through your resume. Remember, I talked about those transitions from job to job. Why did you make those transitions? Those are important things to get really fluent in. That shouldn't be something you practice a couple of times. You should write it down. Why did you leave that company to go to the next company? What was your
Yeah.
business reason for doing that? So these are the type of things that a Z1 career zone can help you with. I mean, if that's one way. If not, you just need to prepare yourself in a written way, in a practice way. And the more you do it, the more it's fluent and the more confident you seem, because now you could talk about you like you're the expert, not like you're, oh my God, there's a question, what's the answer? I'm not prepared.
Right. And you're right. And you know, one of the things I know we stress, right? Like when you get that question, okay, so take me through your background, Jim, you know, and you're sitting there across, right? You know, do you have a specific strategy that you're going through that has a purpose every time, and you've practiced it and now your confidence is up? Because you're going to get that question right off the bat, and it's the first impression. And you're right, is the key to really work on this stuff, right? And practice it, and then you'll be more comfortable and your confidence will go up as a result as well. So,
you know, I probably want to just share one more thing. It just came to mind. You know, if you're the person that continues to tell everyone that you're a perfect employee and that there's anything you'll ever do wrong and it's very flowery, you will add suspicion to your candidacy.
Yeah.
So as you're figuring out your strengths and weaknesses, it's really important to learn to communicate in a very, you know, effective way. These are the things I do really well. This might not be the thing that I do well. And there's nothing better when you tell your weaknesses, they say, well, that's unimportant because of this, this, and that. Now they're trying to convince you that it's okay that you're, you know, have those, that's not your good thing. So that's a lot better than being asked, well, what do you not do well? You know, you don't want that question, you know, you want to control that agenda.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's a question that came in too that really speaks to that. What are the best ways to really understand what my strengths are and how to leverage those, you know, in my job search? That's a really good question. And I think it's an important question too. It
is. I mean, I think I talked a lot about finding out information from others, but I think as well, you know, you really, I mean, for me, it hasn't been that difficult because, you know I'm not patient. I know I don't want to do analytics, you know. I think it's what brings you joy. I mean, that's the question, you know, and, you know, obviously you've been schooled. What did you do well in school? You got grades for that. I mean, you almost have to maybe go back and try to understand that. And what are the jobs that you can do, the stuff that would be good? I think a lot of this question, although it's not brought up that way, is thinking about the type of opportunities you want to pursue. That's probably a little more important than knowing your skills, because you're going to figure out your skills. You know, you got enough people giving you feedback. If you're married, you're getting feedback. You know, you're going to know, you know, what you're doing well, what you're not doing well. So you're going to then figure out, you know, what are the companies or the type of roles that are important. I think thinking about that and then just looking for the jobs that are available will give you a more empowerment.
No question about it. Yeah, and when you understand what your strengths are, you know, and pursue those things where you could use those in the workforce, right? If you're doing a job and you're able to use your strengths every day, you're going to enjoy it and you're going to thrive. That's all there is to it, right? So now here's a couple more here, Gerry, and this one's just so basic, but I think it's a really powerful question to ask you. And it's one of the top 3 things that you've learned over your career that have attributed you to be able to have the success that you have had. 3 things.
Mm-hmm. So the 3 things that
your top 3 things that you would say have attributed to your success.
Oh, thank you. Okay, sorry. Well, I thought for me, a lot of it was knowing who I was. I think at the end, that's what's brought me the most joy, what I enjoy, understanding that. Preparation has been a big one for me. Preparation and study and always trying to be, you know, knowledgeable. You know, you look at a company that if they have an annual report, there's a lot to learn there. There's a lot of studying that can be done to understand your fit or lack of fit, and knowing everything about the company before you go in is really important. Well, I think, you know, I thank God for my parents that made me work when I was really young. So work ethic is important. Again, I don't care whether it's a job search, whether it's your job, throwing everything you got at it and making it a vital part, and thinking about winning and being successful is pretty important. I think that's
great.
For sure. Thank you.
That's great. This last question, I'm just going to do a 20-second introduction who our next speaker is, but this is a good one. Superb presentation, Gerry. Your passion, enthusiasm, and honesty all shine through. This must be your brother or something. Well done. Is it possible to share the slides from this presentation?
Oh, no question. Share the slides.
Great.
And, I'm happy. There's also some of the tools I presented. I'm happy if you guys want to get copies of those too. I know you have them all, Jim, so feel free to send them whoever.
We'll be happy to send that stuff out to everybody, quite frankly, and get it out to you. So
I feel blessed to have this opportunity to share my story with everyone. So thank you.
Gerry, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I know a lot of people, and I'm seeing comments, not questions, a lot of comments too about how much they appreciated some of the things that you said, and I'll share that with you as well. And so, if you go this last slide, and so I introduced our next speaker, which is a gal by the name of Sarah Gunhouse, and Sarah is actually one of our board members at Z1 Career Zone. So obviously, think a lot of Sarah. Think very highly of her. And I had the opportunity to have worked with Sarah 28 years ago at a startup company. And I'll tell you, she is absolute expert on hiring top talented people, right? And probably one, if not the best interviewer that I've ever seen and been associated with. And so what Sarah's going to do is she's going to bring you on the other side of the table, and she's going to have you inside her brain as to what she's looking for and the turnoffs and the things and all this stuff. And so, when you come out of Sarah's presentation, you're going to understand you want to be considered one of those top talented people. She's going to tell you exactly what that looks like and what she looks for. And also, how do you differentiate yourself in this job market that we're at right now with COVID-19? So, so that'll be Sarah, and that comes up on June 3rd. So we're excited about that one. And last but not least, Gerry, just thank you so much. I appreciate you giving of yourself for this. And I wish everybody to be safe out there, and God bless you all. All right. So take care. Thanks, Gerry.